everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield and I'm a professional dance choreographer and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States, and we are officially beginning our LOONA marathon, which I'm very excited for, except for this, because I think a couple of orbits on Patreon had notified me of the importance of being able to understand more background on the group because they did not have a good time with their company. It's very deep, very toxic, and very bad. So much so that there's an entire movement called Blackberry Collective Anti, where we are not watching any material that is on their affiliated YouTube channels. And so this is going to provide me with way better context as to the why behind some things, why is it hard for me to find some dance practices, and to really empathize with where they are so we can truly celebrate their growth through the midst of just aggressive hardship. So as much as I'm like really wanting to know this, part of me really doesn't, because I know it's going to be very, very hard. So I think without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Understanding the impact LOONA had on not just K-pop, but on pop culture as a whole is truly something you can't do unless you lived it in real time. From a phrase as innocuous as "Stan LOONA," history was made. And I'm not just saying that because I'm on Orbit. Before we get into the video, some disclaimers. This video is not meant to be an objective analysis. If that bothers you, then just don't watch the video, don't waste your time.
I appreciate the honesty.
Literally nothing from intentionally making yourself mad. Don't live your life like that. Also, most of this video is drawing from my own memory during the years I've been in Orbit, so sorry if I get something wrong, sorry if I don't have a source. This channel supports OT12 LOONA before anything else. I would sacrifice almost every post-LOONA release to get them back together, except the L'Ensemble album, because getting to hear those girls actually sing on multiple tracks for the first time since they're solos in most cases cannot be replaced. I do read every single comment, and I do reserve the right to delete any I find to be offensive, made in bad faith, or targeting me, the members, or other commenters maliciously. But I also
have a right to.
And like my sleep, so trust I will not be losing any over some YouTube comments. The final disclaimer is a message to stay informed, support Palestine by following the guidelines set by the BDS movement. The only god companies and governments worship is money, so hit them where it hurts. I assume most of the viewers are Orbit, so we know the deal. And please remember that
I didn't know.
is not the end goal. The end
I didn't
goal
know
is
there were
Palestinian
different
freedom.
little
Also,
graphs.
please look
I
into
just
what's happening
received
in
like a
DR Congo,
huge
and
list.
You really need to replace your
So that's very
electronics.
fascinating.
Look at your phone before jumping on the newest model of whatever brand you prefer. This has been my announcement. With that out of the way, we can get into the video.
Ready.
LOONA, known in Korean as Idaresonyo or Girl of the Month, is, as mentioned, a 12-member group formed over the course of 22 months. They're known for their pre-debut project that followed the formation of the group and its unique concept. Each member was revealed with a solo single album, as well as a majority of the members joining in unit promotions. The project started off slow, but with each member revealed gained in momentum. Starting in October 2016 with the reveal of Heejin, LOONA established a concept of each girl getting a representative color and animal that would become identifiers in a larger story told throughout their releases, or a lore. Upon the reveal of their second member, Hyunjin, project was joined by Digipedi. Not 100% sure how to define the company, but it's essentially a video production company with an emphasis on K-pop music videos. Their style became integral to the visual representation of this LOONAverse, as it's called, as they fulfilled the promise of their social media handles to truly become LOONA the world. For Heejin's solo, they traveled to Paris. For Hyunjin's, they traveled to Tokyo. With the addition of third member Haseul, they added Iceland to the list. Fourth member Yeojin would become the youngest member, as well as bringing Taiwan into the mix.
Oh, that's so cool.
In March 2017, the first LOONA unit would make their debut, consisting of Heejin, Hyunjin, Haseul, and the fifth member, Vivi. The composition of the unit was decided by a fan vote where fans would choose 3 of the 4 revealed members to join the, at the time, unrevealed Vivi in a special project. The unit was called 1/3 in reference to the unit consisting of 1/3 of LOONA's lineup.
This is such
they
a
made their debut
vibe.
with their mini-album Love and Live and title track of the same name. The unit was focused on a girlish, youthful pop sound, as well as having some 90s inspiration in their B-sides. After that, Vivi would release her solo with title track Everyday I Love You featuring Haseul and B-side Everyday I Need You, a rearranged version of the title track featuring unrevealed member Jinsol. Vivi also represents her home country of Hong Kong, being the first and only member of non-Korean nationality. With the introduction of Vivi, LOONA's storyline began to take form, with her being an android in the music video who was curious about what it might mean to be human. Her solo music video further built on this concept by using cassette tapes as a vehicle for her memories. 1/3 would have their first and so far only comeback with their repackaged album called Love and Evil, with evil being live backwards. Their title track, Sonatine, was an emotional ballad with some French musette elements. Along with that came a 90s pop-inspired track called Rain 51 Decibel, showcasing a strong bassline for further genre expansion for the group. Phase 2 of the project began in May 2017 with the reveal of the 6th member, Kim Lip. Debuting with the sultry R&B track Eclipse, LOONA's fandom began expanding rapidly beyond dedicated K-pop fans. She was then joined by Jinsol, making her official debut as the 7th member in June with the future bass track Singing in the Rain. In July, Cherry would join with her experimental title track Love Cherry Motion. Their debuts changed LOONA's landscape into a darker one than the youthful innocence of 1/3. They would make their unit debut as Odd Eye Circle in September 2017 with their mini-album Mix and Match and title track Girlfront, and birthed the Stan LOONA movement. Taking note of their quickly expanding popularity in the West, particularly in the US, in a time before K-pop began its push into the market, Odd Eye Circle would release an English version of their hyperpop B-side Lunatic prior to their comeback.
Wow.
They made their comeback on October 31st with their repackaged album Max and Match, along with title track Sweet Crazy Love. The album saw much critical and fandom acclaim, with many regarding it as one of the best K-pop albums ever made, up there with the likes of FX's Pink Tape and Wonder Girl's Reboot. In November, the final unit of the group would begin revealing its members, starting with Eve. This unit was known as the Eden Unit, and many fans regard their storyline as the most cohesive in the lore. Eve's solo track New became the first Soultronica song released in K-pop, solidifying LOONA's genre exploration and expansion. Vivi also featured in the music video in a scene reminiscent of her own solo, connecting the two units. The introduction of their 10th member in December 2017 would prove to be the turning point in LOONA's career more than once. Member Chuu debuted with her song Heart Attack just in time for the Christmas season, and the song has been embraced by LGBT communities across the world, particularly due to the sapphic themes of the music video, where Chuu is shown vying for Eve's attention in various ways. To this day, Heart Attack remains the most streamed song on LOONA's Spotify profile. In late January 2018, Goon joined as the 11th member with her title track One and Only, expanding on the lore of the Eden Girls. Before the final member was revealed, LOONA held their first fan event in early February called LOONA X Study Group, where they screened their music videos and the members would discuss details and theories about them with fans. A few unreleased videos were also shown, including a full-color version of the Sweet Crazy Love music video and several choreography videos. This would be the precursor to the event that first teased the reveal of the final member, the Cinema Theory event. In late March 2018, Olivia He, now known by her real name Haeju, made her official debut as the final member of the group with her song Egoist. However, as mentioned, she had previously been teased in the Cinema Theory event teaser, which came in late February. The event in Seoul was held the day of her debut, so she was not included, featuring as a silhouette on the poster and not part of any of the merchandising. However, after her debut, she was added to the poster and merchandise for the Busan event. The event featured far more unreleased clips and videos that connected the music videos to one another, as well as showcasing alternative versions of the songs and music videos, including a choreography video of a remix of Love and Live where Hyunjin was replaced by Cherry. An event was held on LOONA's Instagram to hold the Cinema Theory event overseas, and Brazil won the chance. This is where things start taking a downwards turn, as this promise has not been fulfilled 5 years later. The final LOONA unit, YY by Y, which stands for Youth Youth by Young, would make their debut with mini-album Beauty and the Beat and title track Love Forever featuring Grimes at the end of May, marking the unofficial end of the pre-debut project, as they would not have a repackaged album. Notably, not a single member of the unit had actually been in the company for very long before their official debut. Eve, Chuu, and Goon were all trainees for less than a month, while Haeju was confirmed to debut the day before filming for the Cinema Theory teaser, but we'll get into that a bit later. After their promotions ended, LOONA began preparing for their full group debut. Their first full group release came in the form of pre-release single Favorite on the 7th of August. The music video was mostly just choreography and began LOONA's journey to being recognized as one of the strongest performance groups in K-pop. Following that was their first event with all 12 members, a debut concert titled LOONAverse on August 19th. This is recognized as LOONA's official debut date, as it was the first time all songs on their debut mini-album Plus Plus were revealed to the public.
So it says LOONAverse. Is that going to be, because there's pre-birth with Artemis, is that out of influence off of this, maybe?
Their
I mean, they'll say it, but...
High were officially released digitally and physically the very next day. Initially, many fans were disappointed by both Favorite and Hi for completely opposite reasons. They felt Favorite was too girl crush, but after getting 2 weeks to get used to it, they then felt Hi was too childish, as they had been expecting something closer to Odd Eye Circle's sound. Today, both songs are recognized by fans as truly emblematic of LOONA's style and sound and highly regarded. Their debut promotions were officially brought to a close on October 14th with the release of the XX teaser. This teaser showed the ++ teaser in reverse, hinting that the LOONAverse would be rewinding, also a common theme in their lore. The Multiply era officially began with the release of the X1X teaser on December 31st, 2018. The era would be preceded by an additional 4 video teaser. The first was X2X, a teaser featuring Gowon in Iceland. The second was X3X, featuring Haeju in Paris. And the last one was X4X, featuring mainly Eve dancing on the streets of Hong Kong before being found and joined by Chuu. The album and its accompanying title track Butterfly would be released on February 19th, 2019 to much critical acclaim. The music video has been lauded for including young women from all over the
Butterfly
world,
track.
The first K-pop music video to feature a hijabi woman. The
music
video, like the teasers, was filmed all over the world, both in the locations featured in the teaser as well as LA. Things would take a rough turn after the release of the album, as album production issues led to the physical copies of the albums not being released until days and weeks later. To this day, despite being one of their most coveted albums to own, Multiply has not received a reissue. Other problems arose as Orbits attempted to get LOONA their first music show win, such as the album being posted on a new Spotify profile, music shows not uploading their performances, and more. On February 25th, their agency announced that member Hassel would be going on hiatus following the passing of her grandmother. After promotions ended, the company announced an extension of her hiatus, which would last from May 10th until July 9th. The era officially came to a close on March 31st when the Hash teaser was released. The teaser heavily featured extra shots from Gowon's teaser shot in Iceland, and due to the final scene as well as some shirts worn during covers, fans began referring to the album as Burn. On May 31st, a teaser was dropped for LOONA's long-teased ballad album, now officially titled La Maison. Understandably, fans were now incredibly hyped for 2 new albums by the end of the year once Hassel returned from her hiatus. Around mid-August, creative director Jaden Jong, credited with the creation of their concept and storyline, revealed that Multiply was the last album he worked on with LOONA, alluding to what would be confirmed later that he had left the company. A later interview would see him reveal that he
Every new story starts with an ending. It's part of his process. He doesn't begin a narrative without knowing how it all wraps up. He envisioned the LOONAverse as 45 parts, from the solo songs to subunits to official comeback singles, but he didn't get to see his vision all the way through due to creative differences with Blackberry Creative's new management, who wanted to put less significance on the LOONAverse. I found that we just didn't align as we had before, Jung said. In August, he left the company with LOONA's repackaged album being the last project with the group. A ballad album was scrapped. In the process, I felt very into when I couldn't proceed further with LOONA, he added. So what that reminds me of, am I going to go there? I'll keep it broad, but I've been in Jaden Jong's position with a company. I'm not going to say them because I've went this long without bringing it up, so I'm gonna be respectful of our conversations, leaving them where they were. There was a company I was with, and I had really good rapport, and I was a top-rated user of the company's product for a couple years. And in that process, I was promised employment with them, different things along those lines from certain directors, or really just one director. They are no longer there. If that tells you some things that have happened from then to now, which is whatever. But long story short, I had created a challenge with this company with this intention in my head that I was going to get hired because that's what was spoken to me. So I wanted to, begin the process. It was a fresh start to, really get the community affiliated with the product on board, and I did, and it was going very well. But what was happening was that there was no movement or traction going on with the company, and so I was advised by one of my dear colleagues that I highly respect. They advised that I needed to send them an email and let them know I will be withdrawing my services at the end of X month if you do not, unless you want to discuss employment. And I was notified that the company had no idea that I was spoken with a director about becoming hired. And so that was a really big slap in the face, and I ended up having to walk away from a really large project. And I've never really done that before, but I was highly advised, and low-key, like, my community, my life were like, Jess, you can't keep doing this, because it wasn't healthy. And I would agree with them, and I'm so much healthier now. But I empathize with Jung so much in that right there, where it's when somebody tells you one thing and then they come back and say, no, we're not going to go with it, that's like a stab in the heart, especially whenever you do years and years and years of your life invested in it. And I will also say, I wonder if a reason why BlackBerry said no is because they just see it as more money, because I bet you Jung is going to make them continue traveling across the world, as he should. That's a phenomenal concept. And just the whole pre-debut to debut inception is top tier. Probably one of the very few. That's like Avengers tier. Sorry, that sounds a bit aggressive. My apologies for the Avengers fans or Marvel fans. It may not be Avengers tier, but I'm gonna tell you, it's very, like, this is a top tier concept that is very hard to execute. And if Jung was given the ability, he would have saw it through to the end. But something must have happened outside of just what was spoken that would have gotten to this. So my heart goes out for him. And this is just unfortunate. This is just one of the few of the many things that, I mean, we're only 10 minutes in a 40-minute video, and issues are starting to happen now. I can only imagine what's about to take place. But that is unfortunate. I really feel for him, and that's really hard. It's hard.
He left due to creative differences with regard to how the lore concept would continue. LOONA went on an unannounced hiatus, spending most of the year performing at various festivals around Korea, culminating in their attendance at KCON LA 2019. This would mark Haseul's proper return to group activities and LOONA's first overseas schedule. Their appearance at the convention drew in such a large crowd, even event organizers began referring to it as LOONACON. Shortly after Haseul's return from hiatus, LOONA's company was hit with a lawsuit from one of their investors, a
Polaris.
Japanese media company called Donuts. Donuts had invested 400 million won into the company back in 2017, and aside from expecting a repayment of their investment, their agreement also involved the LOONA members promoting their live video hosting platform, MyLive. Only Yojin had actually used the platform, while the company continued using VLive, the biggest live streaming platform in K-pop prior to HYBE's acquisition of it in 2022. In response, Orbis began mass buying the Multiply Multiply album on iTunes, causing it to top the US iTunes album chart 9 months after its release, and making LOONA only the third K-pop girl group to achieve that after Red Velvet and Twice earlier that year. This was done under the hashtag #SaveLOONA, where fans showcased LOONA's immense global reach once again. Relief came in the form—
I'm going to tell you this right now. It shouldn't be the fans, yes, investment and support on the fans is one thing, but, like, the fans being the reason why LOONA continues, like, it's the company needed. There's so much going on in the company that I feel like, ooh, I mean, we're gonna get into it, I'm sure, but I think it's so unfortunate that the fans have to do that in order for LOONA to even have a hint or shot at doing a comeback or giving fans hope. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, oh man.
Form of a fan meeting and pre-release single 365 that December, as well as their #1 teaser featuring Heejin. When pre-promotions for their mini-album Hash began, fans noted that it seemed this was a completely different style and sound to what had been teased in the Burn teaser in March. Noting a public blog post by former creative director, fans assumed that Burn, or the original version of Hash, had been deleted, much like their concept album LOONA the Ballad / La Maison. During the showcase, it was revealed that the founder and former CEO and executive producer of SM Entertainment, Lee Soo-man, known as the father of K-pop, had stepped up to work with LOONA as the executive producer of the mini-album. This would mark his first ever work outside of SM Entertainment in the 25 years since its founding. Unfortunately, the company also announced that Haseul would be going on a second indefinite hiatus due to anxiety and would thus not promote the album, although her vocals were still featured on several B-sides. Hash and its title track So What would go on to earn LOONA even more accolades. Despite the image shift being jarring to older fans, the song would go on to earn them their first ever music show win and draw in many new fans. So What has been especially acclaimed for its intense choreo, which, if I'm not mistaken, is still the K-pop choreo with the most formation changes, as well as its bridge. Although its promotions were affected by the pandemic,
I love me a good formation change.
One of LOONA's best eras. In a strange turn of events, LOONA would announce a second mini-album later that year to be released on October 19th, and actually followed through. The album, Midnight, again featured Isuman as the executive producer and expanded LOONA's genre even more. In particular, B-side Voice became only the second LOONA song to receive an English version in the form of Star. After concluding promotions for title track Why Not, LOONA would promote Star with a music video and performances, as well as attending radio shows overseas via video call. To build up hype, LOONA's company bought several stars as a gift for fans and revealed them one by one as Why Not reached specific milestones. The Star music video also became the first music video since...
That's an SM thing, so I wonder if that was the executive producer's idea, because that's what EXO would do, SHINee would do. When they reach a certain mark on the, certain million views on the music video, they'll release a dance practice, so I'm wondering if that was an SM thing that was put on that.
51 Decibel to not be produced or filmed by Digipedi. Although Star saw more popularity than Why Not, such as reaching the top 40 on American radio charts, visually speaking, fans have noticed the influence of Why Not cinematography throughout the industry, proving LOONA's impact. In the final days of 2020, the Midnight era officially came to an end with the release of the New Moon teaser. The teaser heavily featured extended scenes from Why Not, as well as a new scene of Vivi, and teased the return of Hassel to group activities. However, LOONA would not make their return until June 2021, when they began to tease their fourth mini-album.
They're pulling some YG energy on these holdouts. Do you know what I mean? That's, oh my god.
And, as well as title track PTT, starting with a poster of 12 Eyes, officially marking the return of Hasa. Understandably, Orbits were incredibly hyped for the release. PTT became one of LOONA's most successful releases domestically and was supported by both an online concert and online fan meeting, marking their first performances as a full group since 2019.
Wow.
However, promotions for the song would be cut short within days of them receiving their second music show win, first as a full group, due to a staff member being diagnosed with COVID. The era was sure to have been one of their biggest to date, were it not for that unfortunate turn of events. In June and September, members Yeojun Go, Cherry, and Kim Lip would release 2 collaborative singles with children's cartoon Kokomon, titled Yum Yum and Yummy Yummy, respectively.
It's kind of cute.
In September, Kim Lip would feature in another project unit alongside Eve, Jinsol, and Heejin for the single Not Friends. In late June, they released a special clip performing Butterfly and Favorite at the Mori building to tease their long-awaited Japanese debut. Fans could determine, based on their styling, that this clip had been filmed in 2019, the same year they had begun to hint at a Japanese debut. Currently, the assumption is that the debut was postponed due to internal issues, as well as waiting for Hassel's return. LOONA would make their Japanese debut with the Hula Hoop Starcy Kakuse single. The single showed unexpected results, reaching 6th place on Japan's Oricon album sales charts, as well as 3rd place on the top single sales chart. Although a majority of their 2021 promotions were cut short, LOONA would excite fans with the announcement of their February 2022 concert titled LOONAverse From, a thematic continuation of their 2019 LOONAverse concert. However, fans were disappointed to find out member Chuu would be absent due to health issues, only for her to show up on stage on the second day of the concert and reassuring fans that she really wasn't that sick through her tears. A short while later, LOONA were confirmed as participants of Queendom 2, the second female iteration of the show since the first season.
We've already seen that.
Competing against Uju Sonyo, Hyorin, Brave Girls, Kepler, and VV's, fans had high expectations for their appearance. During the first introductory episode, it became clear that Chuu's attendance at the concert was so she could be there when the members found out they were confirmed to be on the show, as that was revealed to them backstage after the concert. But unfortunately, things seemed to only get worse after they get better on LOONA Island, and the girls were unable to participate in the first round of stages due to all contracting COVID the day of the performance. Member Hyunjin held out for a day longer, but all members of the group were sent into quarantine and unable to compete. Due to this, they would end up receiving no points for the round, setting them up as the last place for the entire show so far. Not once to back down, LOONA and Orbits came back for round 2 with something to prove, and they took 2nd place for that round. Despite some ups and downs throughout, Orbits would manage to win every single category in the final episode, coming less than 3,000 points behind the final winners, Uju Sonyo. Had LOONA received any points for their round 1 performance, which was filmed and aired during round 2, they would have pulled ahead, if even by a tiny margin. Taking the frustration from that...
I will say this, though, as a, we have to think, if LOONA took first in the first challenge, we'll do it that way, because that would be something that would change a lot of this. people would not be vying for Hyolyn the way that they did with the competition. The entire dynamic of the show would have shifted. So who actually knows? And you know how Mnet is. Mnet is not one that's going to be like blah, 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 with all this stuff, but we're not going to discredit the fact that Orbit's are freaking awesome in supporting your artists. Like, that is phenomenal. Even like that's incredible. Like, I feel so much for that. I would dream to have that type of support. I mean, I kind of do, which makes it really happy. Like, I'm so happy about the fact that I get to support LOONA in this way and not going about it in like a normal marathon, because it shouldn't be. Like, I feel like we're gonna respectfully go about this in as much context as possible. And the fact that Orbits, you guys are already giving me the appropriate information, like watching this, allows me to have a way better insight going in to understand the lore better, that kind of stuff. And it could honestly be inspiring to possibly entertaining a video like this for every marathon moving forward. I think that would be very fun, right? So all that to say, I do think, like with Queendom 2, there is a lot of what ifs, and there's a very sincere chance that LOONA could have pulled first. But I also will say that Mnet, they like pulling whatever strings they want to pull no matter what. So there is a chance, like, if they got first, the whole dynamic would be different, right? Or if Hyolyn stayed first, it could still possibly change because of their contenderness into the thing, because none of the people watched their first challenge until probably after challenge 2, right? So I digress. So my point being, like, it's really cool that they were able to pull up like that because of the fans. That's awesome.
Orbits transformed it into 2 wins for their post-Queendom comeback for that. The first time
Love
ever they
it.
received multiple wins for one comeback, and the most awarded post-Queendom release.
Aww.
After that successful era, LOONA set out on their first ever world tour titled LOONA the World Tour. However, something loomed on the horizon. Starting on August 1st in LA,
Oh my god.
prior to the show, it was announced that Chuu would be unable to join the entirety of the tour due to scheduling conflicts. Amidst the confusion, allegations began to come out from Korean fans that their company had ceased all support for Chuu, leading...
What? Hold on. Haven't assigned a manager on Chuu's individual schedules for the past 5 months. What? One fan site has been providing Chuu with a manager support since May. On her way to solo activities, she's been seen taking taxis, carrying her own suitcase. Oh my god, that's so dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like it's me going in a taxi. Like, Chuu is considered a celebrity where she's at. Do you know what I mean? So, like, that is very dangerous.
Her to carry her
oh
own
my
luggage
god
and taxis between her many schedules.
Ugh.
This preceded the revelation that Chuu had filed for a contract injunction in December 2021 due to unpaid wages.
Ooh.
It was revealed that Chuu and the company had come to the compromise that she would remain in LOONA while handling her solo activities independently. Each side got 3 cancellations of activities before a penalty fee would be charged, but I'll get into that later. During the tour, members began dropping out from show to show, ultimately ending up with only 4 members who performed all the way through at all shows, those being Heejin, Hyunjin, Vivi, and Goon. Hassel and Cherry were entirely absent from the European dates, while the other members dropped out from certain dates due to illnesses, mental health issues, on-stage issues, and injuries. Upon their return to Korea, they performed 2 dates in Seoul in mid-October, again with the absence of Chuu and Cherry. On November 25th, 2022, the world came to a stop when their company announced the removal of Chuu from the group due to verbal abuse of staff. However, within...
expelled and withdrawn. For this say was true is that they tried to express their feelings by putting their best efforts. Is this gonna be, I have a feeling this is gonna turn into a defamation case. Man, oh. So they're saying that Chuu had violent language and misuse of power towards their staff. Meaning, I mean, this could swing a certain way of, hey, give me a manager, and they told her no, and you do know what I mean? Like, whoa. So Blackberry is essentially trying to play victim here. It's like, we're trying to make LOONA all, you know, all sunshine and roses, but really Chuu's just been so abusive to us and blah, blah, blah. Oh, bless it. Bless it. Well, act in respect in regards for all the staff. Oh, yeah, back in June, the creative denied rumors of Chuu signing with another agency. Reports arose that Chuu set up her own agency. The rumors of her transfer are groundless.
In days, it would start spinning out of control once more as people and staff came out in droves to defend Chuu's character, but...
as they should. Oh, man, I think it's like, He's not a K-pop fan. I asked him what girls. He said they were alright, but there's one girl who was endlessly trying to keep everyone's spirits up. Which one's that? Oh yeah, that girl, she doesn't stop. She's still cheering everybody on. I told him that was her persona on web shows.
But most impressively, all the members aside from Vivian Hyunjin, who had been outspoken in her support for Chuu on their fan communication app Fab, decided to file for contract termination. Their company began a mass slander campaign where they claimed they had evidence of Chuu verbally abusing their staff, but they could not reveal it without the staff's permission, as lack of evidence and supportive statement.
But you had no... Oh, come on. So it's like, here's the thing. Whenever... Oh, man. Once you tell... It's like once you tell a lie, once you fib it, it can so work against you long term, because it say you need the staff's permission to bring it up, bring the evidence, but you had no issues like saying this about Chuu with no evidence. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't... The math isn't mathing. It's say, okay... With the evidence, you should have had permission from staff from the get-go before you even made the statement. Like, but you didn't have their support, obviously. And so they're coming to the defense of Chuu. And so you see staff and employees going up to bat. They have permission to say, and they have their own evidence too. Do you know what I mean? It's so fascinating. It's... And then we're not even halfway done. Oh, God.
Held up
Oh, God.
The desperate move of teasing a comeback and season's greetings kits. However, Orbits had already begun boycott actions in solidarity with the girls, and both releases got record low pre-orders despite the promises of fan calls and fan site events. While there were still some people prioritizing their consumption over the well-being of the girls, a majority of the fandom across platforms agreed to cease financial support to their company by any means necessary, especially as it came out that none of the girls had received a paycheck in 4 to 6 years they had been at the company.
Oh my God. 4 to 6 years. So they were never paid. But I do know there's like that whole thing where companies will make them go so much into debt. And I know somebody told me that I think that's what was happening, is that the company was making them get more and more into debt, and that's why they weren't getting paid. It's because they were paying back the debt. And I know a lot of companies are like that, and that is wild to me. And I mean, as like a complete side note, just based on the time of this recording, I'm seeing a lot that ENHYPEN's being overworked, like aggressively. They are not getting a break, and people are even claiming that they're being brainwashed by their company, which based on the receipts, I wouldn't put it off as a potential option. And I haven't even marathoned them yet, and I think they're overworking. Just from the time that they've debuted to now, the amount of material that they have, I can just, if I put their stuff in a spreadsheet, it's a lot, too much for the amount of age their group is. I've done enough marathons to kind of cite that, right? And if I ever do an ENHYPEN marathon, that'll be something that we do talk about, is that exact thing, and that can factor into the analysis. But all that to say, like, companies, I don't trust them. Ever. No matter how nice they sound. Even BPM, like, they sound super cool, and they're treating their artists healthy so far with Bad Villain and Taemin and Vivis just renewed their contract, so they're treating their artists well, but I still don't trust them, right? Because they're a company, and I don't work there, and I don't know any of the logistics or what's going on the passive side. So, because, you know, same thing with idols. There's certain idols that are just got removed from their groups because of some allegations that have seriously come out, and police have gotten involved. So, like, you cannot trust anything that really goes on in this scene. And so it's like, it's really he said, she said. But there's a lot of things that have trickled down from the beginning here that are just imploding or becoming more and more of an issue, you know. And so, yeah, I appreciate that she was saying that it's she's not going to look at this objectively. Respect to you for the fact that you know that it's kind of impossible to, and that makes total sense. I can look at this with some degree of objectiveness compared to the average, you know, fan, and that's great, but also, like, I still think it really sucks of the fact that they worked as hard as they have, and there's so much of this that's going on, because even going back to Chuu, I really feel that people think that artists have so much power of influence. A lot of them don't. Like, I really feel like LOONA has been very tolerant or they've been very submissive to this company. And so Chuu being able to act out and act like that, they're not really in that headspace to kind of do that. I actually hear that more about actors than I do about idols in groups, especially depending on the age of the group. I don't know. It's just based on my, like, what I've learned and that kind of stuff, you know? I mean, there's the whole thing with 21. Oof, I don't know if I want to handle that lore, because I lived it. And so that's really hard. So I can only imagine this right here and experiencing it firsthand and, like, having that middle ground. If I want to support LOONA, I don't want to support the company because it's enabling them to continue doing this, right? That's how I feel with ENHYPEN, is that I want to support ENHYPEN, but I don't want to support, which in turn causes them to get more overworked because the company is seeing profit by working them like that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, that's such a weird balance, but that was my point in stopping and talking about that, was that correlation. It kind of reminds me of that.
Company as active idols.
혼날 수도 있잖아. 솔직히.
Do it.
지금 대놓고 얘기하는 거일 수도 있잖아. 나 지금 노래하는데 돈 못 벌어요.
Aside from Chuu, whose solo endeavors were only compensated after her first lawsuit went in her favor all the way back in December 2021, the company's Hail Mary attempt came in the form of a dispatch article meant to smear Chuu's name by revealing text messages between her and higher-ups at the company. Highlights include a transcript where one of the higher-ups mocked Chuu and questioned her education when she asked for an explanation for her settlements, framing her as demanding when she requested her time allocated for team activities not be spent on standby for the umpteenth time, framing her understandable reaction to the CEO contacting her mother and scolding her for giving a 1-second choreo spoiler at a fan sign as some unreasonable verbal abuse against staff, and more, which I will get into detail about. As mentioned, the first proof revealed in the article is about Chuu blowing up at a team lead she once thanked for her debut back in 2017 about the CEO contacting her mother about the spoiler. However, something I notice is that the screenshot leaves out the timestamp for every one of Chuu's messages, making it seem like she's blowing up about a lack of response right after confronting them. If you haven't used KakaoTalk before, you might not know that every message has a timestamp, no matter if it's a follow-up or not.
Just like
However,
iPhones.
After a longer pause, a break will appear, but we can't see if that pause was an hour or a day or however long it actually took. I will add in here that obviously, like any sane person, I am on Chuu's side here and recognize that the messages and their context have been edited and manipulated to make her appear as awful as they possibly can, including, but not limited to, the company staff and higher-ups implying that the other members will have issues with Chuu's actions, which is just so ridiculous. Her first round of messages translate to, with something like this, laughing. With 1 second, this is what you're nagging over? Do you not want me to have affection? I'm sitting out this album. While this may seem like a drastic response, I would say it's more likely her attempt to get the staff to reply to her because, as we now know, Chuu did not sit out any album promotions for Flip That. As these messages were from early June and Flip That was released on the 20th, we can determine that this was just Chuu giving a dramatic response to a non-issue being framed as the end of the world by the company's staff. Clearly, this was resolved in a satisfactory way. The second part translates to, guess I'll never promote the album until I die, talk about other groups, my solo album, and solo activities. That's all I'll ever talk about. Appearing or participating in stuff like Queendom? Don't even dream of it going forward. You gotta be kidding me. Like I said, these are clearly the words of an incredibly frustrated person, and later parts of the article will reveal why. However, many people misunderstood the first message, so I will clarify. She was not threatening to take her life in any way. She said that until the day she dies, which is assumed to be many decades in the future, she will not
I didn't take it that way.
And will instead promote other releases by herself or other groups. Along with that is the threat to not participate in team activities not directly related to promoting new music, such as reality competition shows like Queendom. Still doesn't get a response, she gives an exasperated comment. The last part, after an omission, which could be more messages or it could be a long stretch of time, her words translate as, are you not responding? Team lead name, reply, showing again that her messages are going unanswered despite time passing. All of this is supposed to be proof of Chuu being verbally abusive towards staff, but what most people saw was a, at this point, contracted employee being contacted via her mother/liaison to scold her for a non-issue seen all over their industry and having her friends/co-workers held over her head by the CEO only to have her messages ignored for a long period of time.
That's dreadful. And also, I'll add, this is a really sad thing that I've had to learn, is that, I hate the fact that this is a thing, but we've had to learn, like in America, because based on certain laws, like you always want to leave a paper trail, always. like in cases like this, whenever it's like really big issues, we also don't know how many times she attempted to call either, right? Did she try calling them and they didn't answer? Because if they're not even answering texts, they're not answering calls, I can understand that, you know, that's so astronomically frustrating, because that's a big thing too, is for me, I'm definitely we're gonna call on the phone, because I don't want my text messages to be taken in this way, because I've been illegally recorded before, whenever I was venting, just at like a restaurant. And we ended up receiving like a ton of negative reviews, because they would spread that video around everywhere, and I still haven't seen it, and I don't really care to, because they say I'll take ownership for, like, I shouldn't have vented. That's fine. But also, I don't, it's really hard for me to like share or vent, or which, you know, venting is something completely side topic, but not being able to like have, like be vulnerable in like in that kind of way, like be very honest and raw with feelings. Like I have to have very specific places to do that, which is really hard for me. And I'm not even a celebrity, so I can only imagine, like, even in those safe spaces, you still have to, like, even in like the safe space of a chat with your boss, like there's NDAs and stuff involved, and to now that's even being used against you. Like, that is so unfortunate. And they're young too. Like, people forget they're like in their early 20s at best when all this is happening. For me, I can handle that kind of stuff a lot more, but it'd still be so freaking hard for me. But I'm a grown adult. I'm in my late 20s at this point, right? Then I've lived a lot of life over 10 years working and managing a studio. So it's like I've had to learn things the hard way, and that's life. But for them, they've been managed under a really toxic company for probably about as long, you know? And so I think that's a really big kicker in all of this, is that this is not, they're not, I don't know, like they're probably in their mid-20s maybe, but like it's still, they're so freaking young to be dealing with this. Like that's such a shame on those involved. Like, you don't guilt trip and gaslight somebody for them to do what you want. Like, that's not appropriate, and that's not going to get you very far as much as you think it will. That's, oh my God, that's awful.
The article was what sealed the deal for most people, that this company is evil and has been taking advantage of its idols and the fans for years. The settlement structure the girls agreed to, as teenagers in most cases, looked good on the surface. In fact, it was designed in a way where it looked good and favorable to someone with little experience in the industry, i.e. teenagers and their parents. The contract offered a 7-3 revenue split in favor of the company. While it may seem unfair for most industries, these are favorable conditions in the K-pop industry, especially for a small company, as a higher revenue split should mean a quicker debt payoff, meaning they should start getting paid sooner than most idols in a similar position.
Right.
The twist, however, is that the production cost would be split half and half, 5-5, 50-50, after the revenue was split. This was the minor detail that led to this contract becoming incredibly exploitative. I will attempt to put this as simply as I possibly can with the lowest amount I can without making it too confusing. So in this payment structure, we have Party A, the company, and Party B, the artist. As a 12-member group, technically their revenue and cost burden is split 12 ways, but we'll make this simple and treat them as one entity. While making an album, the various costs associated come out to $100,000. We'll just say dollars. The album goes on to make $150,000. In the structure, you would expect this to be, right off the bat, $100,000 of the revenue go to the costs incurred, leaving $50,000 as a net profit. Party A then takes home $35,000, their 70%, while Party B gets $15,000. Everybody wins, everybody makes money, no debt as long as they break even. However, in the contract structure, A would take $105,000, a 70% share, while B would receive $45,000. Sounds good so far, right?
No.
Then come the costs. A 50-50 split of $100,000 would mean A is responsible for $50,000 and B is responsible for $50,000. Easy for A to do. $105,000 minus $50,000 is still a nice profit of $55,000. But what about B? $45,000 minus $50,000 leaves them with a negative $5,000 balance. But these are much larger numbers we're talking about. Add a zero, add another zero. How about one more to account for the many, many releases and other content between 2016 to 2022 that a member such as Heejin, who's been there from the start, might be responsible for paying back, including trainee debt, which is its own sick system I can't get into right now. With this structure, the album would have to make back at least 170% of its investment for Party B to break even. In this case, it would be $170,000 against a $100,000 investment. Add a zero. And this is only the break-even point. For them to start earning a paycheck, they would still need more. So it is impressive that Chuu's solo work was enough for her to break even by the end of 2021 and receive her first paycheck in January 2022. The article also revealed that Chuu was so successful in her solo endeavors that by November 2022, she had already earned 200 million won for her own pocket after not receiving any pay the previous 4 years. But what about the other girls, those who had far less solo activities? Well, in fact, it was a member who brought up the payment issue with Chuu in the first place. Around the end of 2021, Chuu states a member asked her if it wasn't time to start getting paid, noting how her consistent activities with various CFs, ads, appearances, etc. should have already paid off her debt, and that is what prompted Chuu to start digging into the finances. As we saw later, the girls themselves also felt that Chuu's expulsion from the group was the final act of betrayal towards the members by the company. Her legal victory in March 2022 came with several benefits attained by the courts viewing the revenue split as the nail in the coffin for the company. To begin with, revenue split was now reversed, with Chuu taking 70%, and if costs exceeded revenue, the company would take on a 50-50 split, trapping the company in the same uneven deal they had put on the girls originally. On top of that, all management of non-group activities would be ceded to Chuu, explaining why her mother was contacted for a spoiler from an individual schedule and why company staff no longer took her to and from schedules. As I mentioned, another factor was the schedule prioritization. Chuu had the right to be absent for 3 full group schedules a month and 3 group album activities a month. If there was a scheduling conflict, her individual activity was prioritized. Another caveat was that if the company had to request a schedule change, they could only do so once. This addendum would expire on December 31st, 2022. There is another thing which I also mentioned. If one party causes damages to the other, that party must pay damages of 50 million Korean won per incident, and the contract may also be terminated immediately. It only takes 2 months for this clause to be activated during the filming for Flip That. This gets a bit complicated, and I know I'm going into a lot of detail about this article, but all of this is very relevant to what went wrong. On May 25th, Chuu's mother activates this clause as a delay in the music video filming began to eat into the time for Chuu's solo schedule that day. From the schedule revealed in the Dispatch article, a scene scheduled for 11 p.m. to 12:30 a.m. had been delayed by an hour due to earlier delays, and this is where the manipulative framing comes into play again. Dispatch attempts to set up the situation as if Chuu's mother was aware of the delay earlier and decided to activate the clause just to screw the company over, but the transcript reveals something different. There's also another group scene scheduled for 2:30 a.m. for a scene that clearly never made it into the music video, and I'm just confused because clearly the agreement was that she would be leaving at 12:30 a.m. I'll elaborate. The girls were scheduled to arrive at 7 a.m. with filming starting at 9 a.m. The day is mostly group scenes until 8 p.m. when there's a unit scene featuring Chuu. At some point in the day, a delay happens and the photo shoot doesn't end until the last group choreo scene is meant to start filming. However, Chuu's mother has already arrived and word goes around that she will be leaving. A member calls the CEO to ask about it, and this is framed so we think the members are also victims of Chuu and her mother attempting to punish the company. However, I hope you're following along on screen because I will not be reading these
Member, CEO, this is C. Is this a short call possible? A LOONA member. Yes. We just heard that Chuu was going to leave. It was supposed to be a group choreography, but Chuu is suddenly about to leave, so we prepared this as 12, but now we have to do this with 11. Found out about this suddenly. We have to follow along with this, but it doesn't make sense, so I'm making this call. How much time is the overall schedule ends? We don't know that, so is it okay to say this through the manager?
Scripts. When the CEO asks if the member can tell them how much time is left, the member doesn't know, which is strange. She should be able to access the timetable as well, right?
Yes, she should know.
She hands it off to
If it's that big of a concern, like for me, if I have to make a call like that, I'm having all the freaking receipts pulled up. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. And I think LOONA members, I think could totally do that too. So this feels a little off for sure.
Manager. The CEO then calls Chuu's mother, who...
I must be waiting to pay for a child. I think the situation of the group choreo scene isn't done yet. I'm very sorry to say this, but I think it's delayed for about an hour, so I'm calling because I'm wondering if you're okay with waiting. The situation must be awkward for Chuu. We've heard the group choreo. They'd have to do it, but it hasn't been filmed yet. Omitted, but now says that she's going to go all of a sudden. Hello? I'm listening. Ma'am, I know you must have come a long way and would have been tough, but just a little. Anyway, okay, alright. And then could you wait for a bit? I think it would be a really hard situation if she pulls out of the group choreo scene right now.
Again, was already waiting in her car after midnight. The CEO tries asking for understanding that they were caught off guard by Chuu suddenly leaving and attempts an appeal by saying
it shouldn't have caught you off guard. If you understood, if you approve the schedule, this should not have caught you off guard.
Chuu also prepared for the scene and asking for an hour of leniency. Clearly annoyed, Chuu's mother attempts to dismiss it before agreeing in a very dismissive way. She then sends the CEO a text activating the clause and making it very clear that this clause was something the company themselves requested, saying, and I quote, "Your company included that item, so please adhere to it." The CEO then attempts to get her to back off of that by saying if they activate the clause, they'll just finish the filming schedule with Chuu anyways. Is that clear? I'm not sure if that's clear. Basically, if you're making us pay anyways,
we're gonna just force you to.
We'll keep her until the filming is done, which is now scheduled at 6:30 a.m. The CEO then calls her again, and Chuu's mother is understandably furious at their attempt to manipulate the terms of the contract, and after briefly making that clear, she hangs up again. The CEO attempts to apologize through text again and requests that Chuu stay until scene 19 finishes filming, originally scheduled for 2:30 a.m. Chuu left at 3 a.m. and the company paid the 50 million won penalty, with scene 19 never happening. They then bring up the set costs, which is really rich coming from this company, but I'll get into that later. Some more manipulation attempts come through in late December 2021, around the time of her lawsuit, where Chuu confirms that she has no intention of skipping LOONA schedules despite the lawsuit, nor has she ever done so. She also calls out the company for not being able to set up any broadcast schedules anyways, and makes it clear that by now she views the company as a whole as liars attempting to smear her name to get her to comply. On the last days of 2021, Chuu reiterates her mother's request for the company to hand over her seal, a legal stamp that can replace a signature. When the team lead doesn't reply, Chuu gets passive-aggressive, calling them out for not giving her her legal seal, her payments, her financial documentation, and more. Last part talking about the article, I swear. There's a Q&A section with Chuu's representative at the end that sheds some more details revealing things hidden within the proof provided by the company. For example, the 70-30 split that could, in practice, result in the company taking on a much larger share of revenue and put the members into a perpetual cycle of debt. Her side makes it clear that since the settlements were per person, she, with her many solo opportunities, was able to turn a profit much sooner than her members, and they were not living off of her work. Her earnings went to her settlements only. Dispatch attempts to lead her into a me against the members question, but her representative makes it clear that the filming delay was just the last straw, adding context to her mother's upset. When asked about what the company had experienced as power abuse, Chuu's side clarified that Team Lead B was the only staff in the company who would still respond to her, and thus all her frustrations would pour out on them. But this leads Chuu to reveal damning evidence against another higher up in the company back in November 2021, when she was still attempting to get to the bottom of her earnings calculations. The higher up, identified as Director D, attempted to dissuade her from some contract by talking in circles about the revenue split, but the one comment that stuck with readers was when he asked her, "You finished grade school, right?" It's not like you didn't finish, right? To which Chuu clarified to Dispatch that the comment led her to think she would have to speak aggressively for them to listen. At the end of the day, I'm only human, so I made a mistake. After successfully turning more people to Chuu's side, Dispatch edited the article to remove a majority of the proof that had been provided. In particular, they removed the text between Chuu and Team Lead B, as netizens and fans found Chuu's responses to be praiseworthy. Many people identified with her struggle to be treated with respect by her employer, even when the power dynamics had supposedly shifted. There's a saying online: a lot of people interpret respect to mean treating someone as an authority, while others interpret it to mean treating someone as a person. And there are those who think, if you won't treat me like an authority, I won't treat you like a person. I'll leave the article for now, but I encourage everyone to read the full document, finish the Q&A section, then read the first parts again. Back to the other members. A few days after the company announced Chuu's removal, 9 members also filed for the suspension/termination of their own exclusive contracts, as mentioned. Despite this, the company took advantage of their position to force the members to start preparing for a mini-album to be released early 2023. The members made it clear from their messages to fans that they were not on board and extensively complained about the freezing conditions of the music video filming. After protests and boycotts from the company resulted in just about 290 pre-orders recorded in the first week, the company announced that the album would be delayed indefinitely. Unlike
Orbit Shell Wild. I love it.
Projects
I love
such as
it.
their ballad album
Yeah.
that hadn't been recorded, nor any actual promotional content filmed. Messages from the girls and the posting of teasers, including album details, confirmed that the album was pretty much ready for release at any moment. A music video filming, album jacket shoot, and the song recording suddenly scrapped, and we know how the payment structure worked. However much, all of that cost would not even get a chance to get minimized by revenue, meaning 50% of the production cost would be added to the girls' debt.
But they never promoted it, and so therefore they don't get any money, they only lose money.
By dispatch to still be around 200 million won 4 to 6 years in. This is not the first time the company would incur production costs only to minimize or completely reduce the possible profits. For example, the members of Y by Y revealed that they had filmed an entire music video for their album B-side Rendezvous 18.6Y, which was never released. The Cinema Theory event mentioned earlier also featured multiple videos filmed only for that event, as well as exclusive content such as choreography videos shot during the time of the music video film.
I'd be pissed as a choreographer if I was hired to do this and it never got released. I'd be pissed.
It's not big, but there is a subsection
because you would have to sign and say like you can't talk about it, or like you can't mention anything about it, you can't promote it or do anything until a certain thing happens. But if they pull that, then I can't ever use that choreography, I can't ever promote it, I can't even issue it as a credit for myself on my resume, and all the time that I've spent wasted. I mean, but also depends on what kind of contract you sign to. Like, would I have gotten money? Probably. Yeah, with how my contracts are structured, yeah, you're gonna pay me, you know? Even if you don't use the material, you still have to pay me. But it's so many other factors, you know what I mean? Like, it sucks.
Track of what is called LOONA lost media, or media we know was produced but never released, or released in such a limited capacity its existence is only confirmed by the very few who got to see it, such as the official music video for 365, only released for their December 2019 fan meeting. Some more context on these types of things also include Chuu's removal from the 2023 season's greetings. LOONA, from the release of their 2020 season's greetings, began a theme of releasing merch packs in each girl's representative color, one by one, in order. So that kit was in Heejin's bright pink, the Orbit fan club kit after that was in Hyunjin's yellow, the 2020 summer package was Haseo's green despite her not participating, and so on and so forth until we reached the 2023 season's greetings, which was meant to be Chuu's peach. However, after her expulsion in late 2022, she was removed from all content related to the kit and haphazardly edited out from group shots, including in the behind the scenes. The expulsion and exclusion from content already filmed becomes even stranger when you realize there was just barely over a month before Chuu's contract addendum was set to expire, during which they could renegotiate terms. I'm not sure where else to put this, but I felt compelled to bring up Chuu's message to Team Lead B, where she said the company refused to give her her money, seal, and financial documents, and the response to dispatch that activating the penalty clause was not done just because of the music video filming. Trigger warning here for several forms of abuse, but I'm going to speedrun them. The members were kept on a diet of half an apple and a boiled egg for a majority of their pre-debut, until when has never been specified. The company restricted their movements so severely they were only allowed outside of their dorm for 30 minutes a day. Staff, including the creative director, would confiscate their food in order to enforce this diet, while some managers would look the other way or sneak them food such as sandwiches. Also, on the creative director, he told a then 16-year-old Haeju to lose 6 kilograms in a week, then come back for her final evaluation. She achieved that by severely restricting her food intake. She passed the evaluation and was immediately called back for a shoot the next day, which would turn out to be the Cinema Theory teaser. During what is now referred to as the butterfly hiatus, they kept the girls in a severe limbo from around March to December, during which the girls have described dieting pretty much the whole year, promised 2 separate comeback times that didn't come true, thus making the girls feel like they were lying to friends, family, and fans. The limbo also kept the girls from doing anything productive with their time, which they have expressed frustration over, such as not being able to attend language or music classes, and in the case of Vivi, she was not able to return to Hong Kong from her debut until her injunction, for a period of roughly 6 years. I don't have it in me to look up more instances that I may have forgotten, but I just want to point out that none of these were factors in their contracts being terminated. They were terminated exclusively exclusively from a contractual validity viewpoint, and the years of abuse had no bearing, as you will see. In early January, members Heejin, Kim Lip, Jinsol, and Cherry all win an injunction for their contracts, suspending them until further notice and freeing them up to sign with a new company. Usually, a contract injunction is only granted when it is clear that staying under contract would do more harm than not, and it is not an easy thing for a K-pop artist to achieve.
No.
Despite this, the 4 members would be among the 11 total to participate in a postponed Japan concert. The remaining 5 were not granted injunctions, as the courts decided a previous amendment to their contracts made it so an injunction was not necessary, despite the company clearly violating their human rights for years. In early February, the company announced their intention to legally blacklist Chuu and the other 4 members from participating in entertainment activities. At the same time, Universal Japan, their Japanese agency, announced that all 12 members were under contract with them and they would see to it that their obligations would be fulfilled regardless of their status with their company. Remember this. The next day, Vivi and Hyunjin, the 2 holdouts, filed for their own injunction, which was granted in early May. Heejin, Kim Lip, Jinsol, and Cherry would sign with Modhouse, the company founded by former creative director Jaden Jong, in March, while Vivi and Hyunjin would sign with CTDE&M, a company also founded by a former staff member they had been working with since the very beginning, in June. A few days after Hyunjin and Vivi signed with their own company, the remaining members were granted their injunction appeal. In the meantime, fans had submitted petitions to the court in collaboration with LOONA's legal representatives. Ultimately, their appeals were granted when it was determined that the company had transferred the exclusive contract rights of the members to Universal Japan without the members' permission. Remember that? Remember how the company had taken possession of Chuu's legal seal and were reluctant to return it? It's all connected. While Modhouse launched the Artemis project and added Hasu, Hyunjin and Vivi were joined by Yeojin, Gwon, and Haeju and started plans to form their own unit group called LOONAssemble, a portmanteau of LOONA and Assemble, establishing their identity as a group intrinsically meant to bring the 12 members together. Odd Eye Circle made their long-awaited comeback in July with mini-album version Up and title track Air Force One. Apprehension began to show among fans when they began to feel the pre-release promotions were too familiar, to put it nicely. Post-promotions weren't much better, though most fans are willing to chalk that up to their former company's promise to blacklist the members in Korea. Instead, Odd Eye Circle embarked on a small European tour in August. In the meantime, LOONAssemble were preparing for their own mini-album. To explain the release, their company coined the term comeback, itself a portmanteau of the words comeback and debut, setting aside their strange position in the industry as both an independent group and part of a larger whole. LOONAssemble would make their comeback in late September with their self-titled mini-album featuring title track Sensitive as well as several B-sides, all of which featured lyrics from the members themselves. Along with that was B-side Strawberry Soda, written and co-produced by member Eve, who is still looking for her own company. They also embarked on a US showcase tour due to 2 factors. The first and more obvious was that their comeback coincided with most music shows cancelling their broadcast due to both the Asian Games and Chuseok festivities. The second was because CTD was sued by their former company due to using LOONA in both their group name and to promote their tour. Thankfully, the courts determined that the LOONA members should be allowed to promote themselves as such, using the reputation and brand recognition of the name to their benefit as they had earned it. October was a busy month as Chuu and Heejin had their comebacks with their mini-albums Howl and K, featuring title tracks Howl and Algorithm, respectively. Hassel also held her own 4-day mini-theater concert event, with appearances from the other members included in Artemis, as well as digital single Plastic Candy. In November, Chuu held her first solo concert, My Palace, in Seoul. Hassel and LOONAssemble held a busking event and fan concert on the 25th, respectively, and Odd Eye Circle released an English version of their second title track, Sweet Crazy Love. Now, in December, we have already gotten Artemis' The Carol 3.0, their reinterpretation of Hassel's solo B-side The Carol, which originally featured Heejin and Hyunjin and was previously remade in December 2017 by VB, Cherry, and Eve. All companies announced their respective season's greetings. Chuu began her American tour, Howl in the US, and while LOONAssemble have begun teasing their second album, Artemis have announced plans for their project group's collaborative album Dal to be released next year. However, their former company refuses to give up, stating that the 11 members are still artists under their company and they have begun the process to sue Chuu's mother for defamation. This is why it is so important to continue boycotting LOONA's music and content released under that company. Although most of their money probably comes from their very wealthy parent companies, showing that fans are unwilling to support any project from the company, whether old or new, could be instrumental to the courts deciding against the company in the final rulings. You may have noticed that throughout this video, I have not referred to the company by their name, Blockberry Creative, and that was intentional. I wanted to leave that for this last part to remind you that it's not just this company using underhanded tactics, manipulative language, or their position of power to take advantage of young people only hoping to achieve their dreams. This is seen over and over again throughout not just the K-pop industry, but every music industry.
Taylor Swift, Scooter Braun.
At the end of the day, these companies only
That's a
exist
huge
to make
thing.
money, and as long as artists are not protected by the same workers' rights afforded to every other profession, they will continue to be exploited by greedy executives. This video got much longer than I intended, and obviously some things were left out. Feel free to add extra context in the comments if you think it was something important. I need to take a nap.
I need to take a nap. Girl, me too. Yeah, so Taylor Swift and Scooter Braun, there's a reason why she's releasing Taylor's version, because that is something Scooter Braun sold her rights to her music to someone else, even though she wanted to buy it. And so she said, okay. And so she started remaking her music, Taylor's version, and now all of her fans are no longer buying her original albums. They're only buying the Taylor's version. So that's like, this is not the first time I've heard something like this happen. First time in, I would say it's the first time, like, I've heard, like, the in-depth, not court documents, but the evidence, that kind of stuff. Like, isn't it sad too that, like, with the whole hype thing going on, it just, that kind of, like, desensitized me or those who may not have known this to just go and be like, oh yeah, like, it happens. Like, that's just so unfortunate. But also, I will say, there's so much beauty in the fact that there are companies out there that will fight for good, you know, take in the members and set them up for success too. Like, we can celebrate those companies that they're with for that exact reason. I think it's so unfortunate that they had to do that. They literally had everything going for them. They had an incredibly heavily invested director, creative director, who had such a vision that couldn't complete it. Like, that was your first step. And then it just slowly starts happening over and over and over again. Like, that is so unfortunate. And, like, part of me, I'm so thankful that I think from the jump that I think maybe it was just only one routine I had watched that was from Blockberry Creative. Everything else has been from separate links or other things since you guys have notified me. So I am so glad. And I will 1,000% not give Blockberry any credit for any of this. If anything, the fact, like, God, that makes me so... Just thinking about the back-end logistics just sounds like a freaking nightmare on everybody. I hate the fact that this exists, but I'm so thankful that it does, because it allows me to understand how LOONA, like, what's going on in their discography, and it allows me to see and analyze it with more appropriate context and more empathy going in. But I hate the fact that this exists, not the video, but the fact that the situation has happened to where we have to go about their marathon that way. I want to be able to enjoy their growth, and honestly, we're just going to watch them survive. That's a really hard thing for me to have to process. And as much as excited as I am to see some really great works, that's really hard, that I know in the back of my head they're getting effed over every single video that we're watching. But I am doing this marathon for Orbit, and of course for LOONA, in celebration of their hard work, and Lucemble and Artemis, you know. But I digress. This was such an interesting watch. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more LOONA, I'm gonna have it. If it's not on YouTube, it'll be on Patreon ready to watch. I have no idea what's going to be blocked and what's not. I don't know any of the logistics on that, but all the footage I'm going to be looking at outside of this video or some other fan-made videos is going to come from the LOONA Google Drive that I was given access to. It kind of felt like I was invited to the cookout, which makes me feel really good. Thank you, Orbits, for that. And I'm always one to be an advocate where we need to be an advocate for, and I am here for this. And I'm very intrigued on the discussions on this. If there's anything to add that's going to be really helpful for me in this marathon, I would love to know about it. My goal is to learn all of their names, and I kind of feel like I can recognize Chuu pretty well at this point, just from this video. And I think that's unfortunate, the fact that she had to stand up and advocate for herself in that way. She shouldn't have to, you know, and her mom, they shouldn't have had to do that, and that's so unfortunate. And like getting Dispatch involved, don't think Blockberry didn't pay off Dispatch at all. You know what I mean? In order for them to even try to do that. So I digress. You guys know me, I know you. I'm Jess, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.